My sister said she'd watch our house while we were visiting my parents. When we came back early, I found her in our bed with my husband. She gasped. He pulled the sheets over his face and said, "You weren't supposed to see this." I didn't yell. I just called our mother and said, "You might want to pick up your daughters." Then I locked them both out permanently. I'm not someone who usually posts online, but what happened last year changed me in ways I didn't think were possible. I'm still trying to make sense of how it all went down, but one thing I do know for sure, betrayal cuts the deepest when it comes from your own blood. And the man you trusted with your life. My name's Tracy. I'm 38. I've been married to Rick for 6 years. We live just outside Louisville, Kentucky in a quiet neighborhood with small front lawns and nosy neighbors who wave like they care. I work part-time as a vet tech. Rick's in IT. Some remote job he always claimed kept him too busy for most things. I never pushed. I believed him. My sister Melanie and I were close growing up. Not best friends, but close. She's 3 years younger and always had that center of attention vibe. She was the kind of person people noticed when she walked in. I used to admire it. She never kept jobs for long, always dating someone new, always floating from one phase to another. But she was family. When Mom had surgery 2 years ago, I was the one who took a week off to help her. Melanie showed up for one day, took pictures for Facebook, and left early. That should have told me something. But like I said, I believed the people I loved. Last summer, my parents were celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary. We planned a small gathering in Cincinnati. Rick said he couldn't come, work emergency again. I didn't question it. Melanie offered to check on our house while I was gone. Said she'd water the plants, keep an eye on things, maybe even clean up a bit. "You're doing all this for Mom and Dad. It's the least I can do," she told me. I packed up Sunday and left around 10 a.m. The drive was smooth. I stayed with my parents, helped with the party, and planned to head back Thursday morning. But late Monday night, my dad slipped on the porch and hurt his ankle. Nothing broken, but he couldn't walk well. My mom was stressed, so I offered to stay 2 extra days to help. I called Rick. He sounded weird. Not annoyed, just off. Said he missed me. I thought maybe he was finally realizing how much I handled on my own. Tuesday morning, around 9 a.m., I packed up and left for home. It's a little under 2 hours if traffic isn't bad. I pulled into our driveway at 10:45. That's when I knew something was wrong. First off, our trash bins were full. Way too full for someone who lives alone and claims to eat healthy and clean. Takeout containers poked out from the top, including Thai food and pizza, stuff I know Rick hates. Our porch plants were dry, leaves curling at the edges. The curtains in the living room were shut. I never leave them shut. I stood there for a second with my keys in hand, trying to figure it out. Then I walked in. The smell hit me first. Not a bad smell, just not mine. Like cheap perfume. Strong and sweet. Then I noticed the TV remote on the couch, tossed carelessly next to a wine glass with lipstick I don't wear. There were crumbs on the coffee table. My stomach started to turn. I didn't make noise as I went upstairs. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid of what I'd hear. Or maybe I already knew. When I reached the top step, I heard voices. Muffled. Laughing. A woman's laugh. Familiar. Then I heard Rick say something low. I couldn't make it out. I opened the bedroom door, and there they were. Melanie was lying on her side, completely naked, facing away from me. Rick was sitting up behind her, sheet around his waist. His eyes met mine, wide as hell. She turned when she saw me, gasped, and scrambled for the sheet. But Rick just stared. And then he said the dumbest, coldest thing I've ever heard in my life. "You weren't supposed to see this." No apology. No excuse. Just like I had walked in on something I wasn't allowed to see. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I backed out of the room and went downstairs. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the fridge for maybe a minute. Then I picked up my phone, called my mom, and said, "You might want to come pick up your daughters." She asked what happened. I said, "Ask Melanie." Then I hung up. I waited. 5 minutes later, they came down the stairs wrapped in towels like cowards. Melanie's face was pale. Rick wouldn't look at me. "You don't live here," I said to her. "And neither does he anymore. Give me your keys." Melanie opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. "Keys. Now." Rick tried to talk. I turned to him. "You said I wasn't supposed to see this? Guess what? Now you both have to see what happens next." They didn't move. So I walked to the front door, opened it wide, and said, "Get out." They stepped out like confused little kids. I shut the door and locked it. Then I changed the locks that afternoon. And that was only the beginning. After I locked them out, I didn't cry. I didn't even sit down. I went straight to my room, tore the sheets off the bed, dumped them in a trash bag, and threw them out with the rest of the filth they left behind. Then I called a locksmith. I had all the locks changed before noon. I also took pictures of everything. Their clothes on the floor, her makeup bag on my nightstand, 2 wine glasses, her pink flip-flops by the front door. I didn't plan to use the photos at first. I wasn't thinking that far. But something inside me told me to keep the evidence. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Rick tried texting short, pathetic messages like, "Can we talk? I made a mistake. It's not what you think." I didn't answer. Not one. Melanie? She stayed silent. She knew. She always knew how to disappear when she did something awful. It wasn't until that weekend that the lies started. My cousin Brianna called me from Indianapolis. "Hey," she said, "did you really throw Melanie out on the street?" I froze. "What?" "She told everyone you kicked her out for staying over too long. Said she was helping you and you had a breakdown or something. Mom said she was crying in the group chat." I told Brianna the truth, plain and simple. What I saw. What Rick said. How I tossed them both out. Brianna went dead silent. "Holy crap," she said. "She's telling people you're unstable. That you imagined it." I laughed. Actually laughed. But it wasn't the funny kind. It was the kind of laugh you make when someone tells you your life is a lie. That night, I posted in our family Facebook group. Just one message, just to clear things up. Melanie and Rick were in bed together when I got home early. I kicked them both out. I'm not unstable. I'm not broken. But I am done. Then I attached the pictures. Did it blow up? Oh yeah. My mom called me screaming. Said I embarrassed the family. I told her Melanie embarrassed herself. And I wouldn't be covering for her anymore. Some of the cousins backed me. A few of them told me they always thought Rick was creepy around Melanie. One said she saw them whispering at my wedding and brushed it off. Another said Melanie flirted with her boyfriend at a barbecue years ago. The worst part? My dad. He didn't say a word. He didn't call. Didn't text. Just silence. I knew what that meant. He believed my mom. He believed Melanie. So I stopped talking to both of them. Meanwhile, Rick started blowing up my phone. He even showed up at my job. My coworker called me from the front desk. Tracy? There's a guy here who says he's your husband. He looks like he's been crying. I walked out back and waited 30 minutes until he left. The next week, I got served. Rick wanted the house. His lawyer claimed that since we were married and the house was community property, he was entitled to half, maybe more, since I locked him out illegally. That's when I decided I wasn't just going to survive this. I was going to destroy him. I hired a lawyer. A tough one. A woman named Janice who had a reputation for being brutal in court. I gave her everything. The texts, the photos, even the timeline of how he'd been distant for months before the trip. Janice smiled and said, "We'll bury him." I also dug deeper into his work laptop, which I still had access to. And that's when I found the real gold. Rick had been working remotely, sure. But his job had fired him 3 months before. He never told me. He just kept pretending. I guess Melanie made it easier to pass the time. And guess what else? He drained our joint savings by $12,000. Said he invested it. No record of where it went. I printed it all. Then I called Janice again. This gets better, I said. Or worse, depending on who you are. At the next hearing, Rick showed up looking like death. Melanie wasn't with him. She'd moved back into our parents' house. My mother told the whole family I was refusing to reconcile. The judge reviewed our case and nearly laughed at Rick's demands. He ended up walking away with nothing. I kept the house, the car, and got a judgment for half the money he stole from our savings. He didn't have it, so he was ordered to make monthly payments for 5 years. That's not even the best part. Melanie got fired from her job. Apparently, someone, not me, of course, sent an anonymous email to her boss with screenshots of her social media and some very inappropriate messages she'd been sending from her work account. And that was just phase 2. By September, things had gone quiet again. Too quiet. Rick was out of my life, at least on paper. Melanie stayed with our parents, who were still clinging to the family should forgive script, like they hadn't raised the person who stabbed me in the back. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. I was at the grocery store, just grabbing eggs and milk, when I saw someone watching me from the end of the aisle. He looked familiar. Tall guy, scruffy beard, worn-out work boots. He followed me into the frozen food section. "Tracy," he said. It took me a second. It was Joel, Rick's old college roommate. We hadn't seen each other in years. He'd come to our wedding, gotten drunk, danced with my grandma, then vanished back to Michigan. I'd forgotten all about him. "I heard about what happened," he said. I tensed up. "What exactly did you hear?" He shook his head. "Not from Rick. From someone else. A mutual friend. Word got around. But that's not why I'm here." I stared at him, waiting. "I was in town for work," he said. "And I thought maybe you should know something. Something Rick told me years ago, back when we were still living together." Now my stomach was in knots. He leaned in, lowered his voice. "He used to talk about your sister. Said she was hot. Said he'd never act on it, but the way he said it, I didn't believe him. One time, after a party, he told me she came on to him. Said he turned her down. But he looked proud, not guilty. I didn't say anything." Joel kept going. "There was this night, right before you two got engaged. I walked in on them in the kitchen. Lights were low. She was wearing this tiny dress and they were real close. I asked what was going on and she laughed and said, 'Just catching up.' But I remember the look on Rick's face. He wasn't just catching up. I felt dizzy. He put a hand on the cart. 'I thought you should know. It didn't start this year. It started way back.' He was probably waiting for the right moment. 'And Melanie?' She gave him plenty of chances." I nodded, slowly. He gave me his number. "If you ever need anything, I got your back." That night, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine and thought about every holiday, every cookout, every time Rick and Melanie had sat too close on the couch or shared those private little laughs. I thought about my own wedding. How Melanie gave that long toast about how some people are meant to find each other, and how Rick wiped a tear from his eye during it. I thought it was sweet back then. Now I knew better. And I wasn't done. That's when I remembered Melanie's ex, Darren. She'd dated him 2 years ago. Nice guy, worked in finance. She dumped him after 6 months, said he was boring and too clingy. I still had his number from a Christmas party invite list. I texted, "Hey, it's Tracy, Melanie's sister. Got a minute?" He called me 2 minutes later. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Not really, but I have something to ask you." We talked for 2 hours. Turns out, Melanie had cheated on him too, with someone from his office. He never told anyone because he didn't want the drama. But he said something that stuck with me. She always needed to be adored, he said. She couldn't stand not being the center of attention, even if it meant blowing up someone's life. That's when the final piece clicked. Melanie hadn't just slept with Rick for fun. She did it because she couldn't stand that I had something she didn't. A house, a husband, a stable life. She wanted it, even if it meant ruining it. And Rick? He let her. So I started working on phase 3. No more silence. No more dignity. I was going to make sure everyone knew who they really were. Phase 3 took planning. Quiet, patient, cold planning. I stopped talking about it. I stopped posting about it. I acted like I was moving on. Even my friends believed me. That was the point. I started small. Melanie had just started posting again on Instagram. Selfies, healing journey quotes, fake smiles, captions like surround yourself with people who uplift you. She started dating again too. Some guy named Troy. Owned a roofing company. Had no idea what kind of snake he was dealing with. So I created a new account. Fake name. Fake photo. Nothing flashy. Just a quiet profile following a few people from her circle. Then I slid into Troy's DMs. You might want to ask your new girlfriend why she left her last job. He didn't answer at first. Then I sent him screenshots. The work messages. The emails. The naked pictures she'd accidentally sent from her work email, the same ones that got her fired. He blocked me. But 2 days later, Melanie's profile went dark. 1 week later, she posted a vague story about people trying to tear her down and trusting the universe. No more Troy. No more selfies. Meanwhile, Rick was still on the hook for the money he owed me. He was 6 months behind. My lawyer filed a motion to freeze his account. We found out he was working under the table at some repair shop, getting paid in cash to avoid garnishment. So I sent the court proof. Photos. Bank slips. Even a copy of a text from one of his buddies bragging about how he was dodging the ex. Judge didn't like that. Rick was ordered to appear in court again. This time, the judge warned him, one more slip and it'd be jail time for contempt. He stared at me the whole time. No anger. Just that hollow look of someone who finally realized the damage he'd done wasn't going away. After that, I thought maybe I could let it go. But then my mom called me. I just wish you'd make peace with Melanie, she said. She's trying. You're being so cold. I laughed. She's trying? She lied, stole, and crawled into my bed with my husband. You call that trying? She's still your sister, she said. Not anymore. I hung up. And that's when I did the last thing I ever planned. I wrote a letter. Not to my mom. Not to Melanie. But to the whole family. I printed copies. I mailed them out. Cousins. Aunts. Uncles. Everyone. Inside was a photo of Rick and Melanie, in my bed, the one I took that awful morning. And a letter that said, I don't need your sympathy. I don't want your forgiveness. I just want you to know the truth. The next time she tells you I'm cold or unstable, remember this photo. And ask yourself what kind of person does this to her own sister. Some people never responded. But some did. My uncle sent a card that said, We're with you. My cousin messaged me, Melanie's dead to me. If she did it to you, she'd do it to anyone. Even my dad, the one who stayed silent for months, finally called. He said he didn't know what to say. I told him that silence was a choice too. Then I blocked him. Rick moved to Indiana. He's working under his real name again now. I get his garnished checks like clockwork. Melanie? Last I heard, she moved in with a guy twice her age who owns a used car lot. She doesn't post anymore. Doesn't come to family events. My mom still sends me invites. I throw them away. And me? I kept the house. Painted the walls. Changed the locks again, just because. I bought myself a new bed. New sheets. Slept in the guest room for 6 months before I could walk back into that room without shaking. But I did it. The truth is, I made mistakes too. I trusted people who didn't deserve it. I ignored red flags. I believed words over actions. That won't happen again. And if you're reading this thinking, that's cold, you're right. I am cold now. Because warmth is what let them in. Cold is what keeps them out.